Hey, welcome to a new video. This is part 5 of creating our player dev helper script or system. So let's jump right into it. So we now want to add our data we had from our database. So let me find the table again. So here is our table. So now we want to add these values so we have them stored inside the player list here. To do that, we just need to add it here because this is the list Eluna has stored in memory about the players. And to add that, what we basically want to do is in here we say has earned rewards, and we set this equals to a new table, and we want to send this when we get the data here. Basically make these has reward fields into a list. No, sorry, not a list, a table, and then we send it to the player list to add them. So what we want to do here is just call this earned reward table. So we know that this up here is a table we want to send with adding the player. In here, to unpack a table, you write table.unpack, and in here you basically just write the earned rewards table. And now we have already set that up. That's pretty fast to set up. Now what we need to do is we actually need to add in here. So when you log in, we need to load this data and then store it inside the player list. So the first thing we are gonna do here is that we have the player found here. So let's take this list or this adding part, move it down below here. And here we want to say player list.add, and we still want the GUID to be what we have, and we still want the player to be stored inside the player list. So what we want to do, you see here, we have the player object, but that's the second argument, and that's it. The second here, we have 0 here, but we don't want to write 0 anymore because we want to load. So you can see here, actually what we want to do is we want to move this. Sorry, I'm a little tired today. If we move this line down to here, because it should only do this if we found a player. So if the player is already in the database. So here we don't want to write 0 anymore. We want to write player found. And then in here, what we want to do is get the, or sorry, that's wrong. We want to do the so what we want to do is this, and then we want to get, since we stored them as in uint32, we want to write get uint32, and inside here, what we want now to do is that we know the number 0, as we talked about last time, that when you go in here, and we can go over to the table here, so it's a little bit easier for me to show you. So in here, as we talked about last time, 0 is basically the first one. So what we want to do now that we want to get the def underscore count, so the def count, we want that one. So that would be 2, but we might need to minus 1. So that will say this would be 1. So we want to write 1 here. Now that is the def count we are getting here. Next up, let's create that table I talked about so we can send a table with it. with the argument up here. So to do that, just write local rewards table or has rewards table and equals, and then in the code brackets, what we write here is that we write player found colon get UN32, and in here we now want to write each of the lines. So you see this one is 3, we -1, that's 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we need to make sure that it's in the correct order here. So in here we write 2, then comma player found again colon get UN32, and we want to write 3 this time, then comma player found colon get UN32, and in here we write 4, and then comma and player found colon get UN32, and we want to write 5. Now we have all these, so we have all these variables. So the number we store here, the value we store in these, we have in here in the table. But now it's much easier for us, because what we can do is that we need to give it the earned rewards table, this argument. So what we can now just do is say we send the table with it. That makes it much easier, because otherwise we would need to write 4 arguments up here to then place in here like we did here. Now we just create this table down here, and then we send it to the player list when we add the player, and then we can table.unpack it here, making it much cleaner. Now that we have added that, what we want to do is that this would run if the player was found, but we still want to add the player if the player wasn't found. So to do that, we want to write else, and then here we just want to write like we did before. So just player list.add, and here we want to write DUID still, because we need the player's DUID, and the player object, and here def count we say 0, because if you aren't in the list, then you, or the database, then you haven't logged in, and your character probably just logged in for the first time. So we want to set it to 0. And the table here, what we want to do here is the code brackets again, and then just 0, 0, 0, and 0. To fill these in the list as 0, because we haven't unlocked anything, so we set it as 0. And we add the player to the list. Now we add this player to the list if he isn't found inside the player found call to the database. So let me show you here. What we can do is actually down here we print the player count already, so I can show you that it works. So I'll head back into WoW. So let me just real quick log in here. And now we're inside. And since I have had the server open while we coded, I need to reload Eluna. So reload Eluna. Hit enter. Now let's hit in game. And we should see in our console here, yeah, player found with this GUID. That was from the other parts. The player def counter on login is 0, because our def counter is 0 here, or def count is 0. So now let's try to log out again. Then let's put this to be 22, and then let it save. Now let's try to log in, and it should say 22. And it does, because it got the player from the database with the GUID. So now we know that works. So what it basically everything works, but we can check another thing. So let's say we want to figure out if this has reward 1 actually gets loaded in. So let's just set it to 50 just for a test value. Then let's go back into Visual Studio, go down here, just change this so we still get the player. We then go into the has earned rewards, and since we want the first thing, so like here, since we want this one, and Lua works with, it starts from 1 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, so we would write 1, and then we can save it. So now when we head back into WoW, we say reload Luna and hit enter, and then log out again. And you should see inside the database, or has reward 1 is 50, so now it should say 50. And it does. That's because we already can see everything is being loaded. So now it has the player, it has the death counter, and it has the table with if we have gotten any rewards. So I think that's all for today. Tomorrow we will actually start adding in the rewards, so the amount of gold you should give for each reward. And we will look a little bit more into how we can set up the reward system in the next part after that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider leaving a like and a subscribe, and leave a comment down below. If you have any questions or any recommendations for anything new I should try to work on and make videos on. See you next time.